she killed her mother, who had been falsely presenting her as severely ill. The full story of Gypsy Blanchard. In late 2023, Gypsy Blanchard was released from prison. 8 years earlier, together with a boyfriend she met on a Christian dating site, she had orchestrated the murder of her own mother, who had been fabricating illnesses for her daughter since childhood and forced her to live in a wheelchair. In 2008, Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard and her 12-year-old daughter Gypsy Rose moved into a specially adapted house in Springfield, Missouri. The girl used a wheelchair and required special conditions, so there was a ramp leading to the front door and a jacuzzi in the bathroom for muscle relaxation. The small Blanchard family was well liked by the neighbors. The friendly Dee Dee had a knack for gaining trust and establishing friendly ties. For example, she would sometimes set up a projector in the yard and host movie screenings. The woman charged for this, but it was less than a real movie theater, and besides, the money was supposed to go to an important charitable cause, Gypsy's treatment. Except Gypsy Blanchard needed neither a wheelchair nor treatment. She wasn't a 12-year-old teen ravaged by illness, but a healthy 17-year-old girl. But she didn't know it yet. Gypsy Blanchard's childhood and the beginning of her personal hell gypsy was born in 1991, when her parents had already separated. 17-year-old Rod Blanchard realized that marrying 24-year-old Dee Dee had been a mistake. However, he managed to come up with a middle name for his daughter Rose, after his favorite band, Guns N' Roses. Dee Dee decided to raise the girl on her own, and soon she began taking her to doctors. First, it seemed to her that the baby wasn't breathing well in her sleep, and needed a special device. That's how the diagnosis of sleep apnea appeared, although doctors didn't notice anything strange during the examination. When Gypsy started walking, her mother made her use a walker under the pretext that she had muscular dystrophy. At age 7, the girl got into a minor motorcycle accident with her grandfather and injured her knee. Dee Dee took her to the doctor and then said that he had given her a wheelchair and that from now on, she could only move around in it. Rod Blanchard tried to stay in touch with his ex-wife and get news about his daughter. After the accident, he was told that the girl was seriously ill and would be confined to a wheelchair for life. However, Dee Dee had said this before, and even claimed that her daughter wouldn't live to be 18. Over the years, the number of illnesses that the mother attributed to her child only grew: leukemia, chromosomal disorders, epilepsy, asthma, deteriorating vision and hearing. By the time the family moved to Springfield, the girl was using a wheelchair, wearing glasses, being fed through a special tube, and sometimes using an oxygen tank. She had a pale face and a shaved head, and her teeth were crumbling, rotting, and falling out. Why did Dee Dee Blanchard invent her daughter's illnesses, and how did she get away with it? In her youth, Dee Dee had worked as a nurse's aide, so she knew exactly how to describe symptoms to get the desired diagnosis. Sometimes she would give her daughter special medications to mimic a diseased state. For example, she convinced doctors of the need to remove salivary glands by using a local anesthetic that caused the girl to salivate excessively. If examination results and tests didn't match Blanchard's claims, she would simply stop going to the doubting doctors and find others. The many unnecessary medical procedures that treated my fabricated illnesses left physical and emotional scars on my body, Gypsy later wrote in her autobiography, Freed Conversations on the Eve of Freedom. Dee Dee's behavior clearly signals the presence of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a mental disorder in which a parent or other guardian of a child makes up false symptoms and illnesses for them. Usually those with this syndrome want to attract attention and evoke sympathy from others. In addition, Blanchard took advantage of the material benefits that her daughter's made-up diagnoses provided. The family received government payments and moved twice into housing designated for them, first to a shelter for people with special needs in Covington, and then to a separate house in Springfield, which was built by Habitat for Humanity. They got into the shelter after Hurricane Katrina destroyed their previous apartment in 2005. The natural disaster played into Dee Dee's hands. She told everyone that the hurricane had destroyed the girl's birth certificate and all medical records. Now she could lie not only about diagnoses, but also about Gypsy's age. The girl herself only found out in 2011 that she was actually 5 years older than her mother had led her to believe. Why didn't Gypsy ask for help? Dee Dee and Gypsy were very close. The mother often picked out matching outfits for them, accompanied her daughter everywhere, and convinced others that when communicating with the girl, they should always keep in mind her developmental delays, which also didn't exist. Gypsy did not go to school. Her mother considered it impossible in her condition and tersely informed doctors and social services that she was being homeschooled. Her entire education ended at the 2nd grade level. The girl only learned to count and read. As a child, the girl unconditionally trusted the main person in her life, not suspecting that her mother could cause her harm. Dee Dee skillfully controlled her, manipulating and laying on the guilt. "I did everything for you. I sacrificed everything. And how did you repay me?" Gypsy quoted her mother in her book. She wanted her daughter to be tightly bound to her, and this desire was boundless. For example, both Blanchards always slept together in the same bed. Gypsy had her own room, but if she wanted to sleep there, Dee Dee would turn off all the lights and close the door tightly. She knew the girl was afraid of the dark and would soon ask to sleep together again. "I didn't realize that anything was wrong with my life until I went to prison and worked it out. Like, for example, the fact that up until the murder, my mother and I always took baths together," Gypsy recalled in her autobiography. There, she also mentioned that her mother shaved her below the waist herself. In 2011, the girl tried to run away from home. At a science fiction convention, she met a man, and they began corresponding online. He was the first person she told that she could walk and didn't actually need a wheelchair. Gypsy was sure she was 15 and they couldn't be together, until she found a card at home that listed her real age. The adult girl secretly took money from her mother and left a note saying she wanted an independent life. The escape was short-lived. It turned out that the man was on parole and couldn't leave the state. Dee Dee was beside herself with anger. She smashed her daughter's computer and phone and then threatened Gypsy herself. "If you ever try to do this again, I'll break your fingers with a hammer." After that, she tied her daughter to the bed with a dog leash for 2 weeks. Later, Gypsy recalled that she endured violence not only from her mother. Once, she confessed to her that her own father had molested her when she was 5. And then Gypsy remembered that when she was about the same age, there was a strange moment when her grandfather made her and her granddaughter take a bath with him. How was the murder planned? Gypsy had no friends, firstly. Her social life was very modest. And secondly, even if the girl managed to make contact with someone, at some point the peer would start getting interested in boys and Dee Dee would cut off their communication. This happened over and over again. The younger Blanchard was not allowed to date guys. Her mother had been preparing her for a nunnery since childhood and didn't want her to have carnal fantasies. But the girl was growing up, and she wanted to experience what she saw on TV. On a Christian dating site, she began corresponding with Nicholas Godejohn. He had previously been known for antisocial behavior. In 2013, he was caught masturbating in a McDonald's, and then a knife was found on him. In his communication with Gypsy, he took a dominating position. He introduced her to BDSM and demanded that she send him erotic photos and videos, for which she often had to transform into different images. The more he praised me with the phrase, "good job," when I sucked a male organ imitation he had ordered from Japan, the more I believed he loved me, the girl recalled. In order for the young people to meet, they had to come up with a plan. In early 2015, Gypsy asked her mother to take her to the movie theater, where she and Nick pretended to be strangers before slipping into the restroom. Dee Dee saw through the plan and forbade the couple from seeing each other. Godejohn took a dislike to the woman and told Gypsy that he had an alternate personality who liked to kill. "Honey, you forget that I'm ruthless, and my hate for her will make her die," he wrote to his beloved. Prosecutors stated that during the investigation, evidence was found in Gypsy and Nick's private correspondence that the girl herself had asked to kill her mother. But these messages were not made public. This bitch is dead. On a June night of the same year, 2015, Gypsy waited for her mother to fall asleep and let Nicholas, who had arrived, into the house. She handed him a knife and gloves, and she hid in the bathroom and covered her ears with her hands so as not to hear what was happening in the bedroom. There, Godejohn was stabbing his beloved's mother. When Dee Dee was dead, the couple made love. Later, Nick claimed it was consensual, but Gypsy didn't think so. "I made a deal with him. I'll let him rape me, and then he won't do it to my mom," she explained. Later, the man admitted that he really had thought about raping the corpse. Gypsy and Nick went to his parents' house in Wisconsin. On June 14th, a message appeared on Dee Dee's Facebook page. "This bitch is dead." Gypsy published this post. She wanted her mother's body to be found. The neighbors were indeed alarmed by the post, and soon they discovered the dead woman in her home. The next day, June 15th, police arrested both Gypsy and Nicholas. Suspecting them of murder, they managed to track the IP address from which the social media posts were sent. What happened to Gypsy afterwards? The younger Blanchard pleaded guilty for second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The final trial of Nicholas Godejohn took place in 2019 for his crime. He received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Gypsy was sent to serve her sentence at the Chillicothe Correctional Center in Missouri, and she remembers her first day in prison as the best day of her life. The girl felt freer than in her mother's house, and was able to build the friendships and romantic relationships that she had lacked so much. She made friends, and in 2022 married Ryan Anderson. In 2020 they struck up a correspondence.